here we are up on the 11th floor of downtown.
Yes.
Nice view in your office here.
Yes,
And
I should enjoy it more.
you should. Well, I wanted to let you have a chance to tell the city all the stuff you've been doing for the city. You're everywhere, it seems. I go a lot to these functions, and you're over at ABQID, you're over at Innovate, you're down at the Chamber, you're everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
So you're a busy guy,
Mm-hmm.
but not everybody gets a chance to follow you around.
Sure.
So let's talk a little bit about your background first.
Sure.
I mean, you were picked for this job because you're an entrepreneur and a businessman, but tell us the story.
Yeah, I mean, I'm an entrepreneur and a business person, not an economic development person. And, you know, a few years ago, I kind of understood peripherally what economic development meant. But now, a year in, I see the value in economic development, the value in being intentional and disciplined around what we're trying to do and accomplish in the city. And I have to tell you, it's been a blast. I didn't know what it would be like being in government. It was kind of one of those things I thought, well, maybe this is going to be penance for a while, you know, or whatever. But I have to tell you, working with this mayor, this crew, I'm having a blast. I get to you know, talk to very intelligent people about things I'm passionate about every day. I mean, you talk about the fact that I'm all over the place. It's easy to be all over the place when you're trying to be a sponge and learn what the community really needs, and you're passionate about what you're doing.
Exactly.
And that's the key. I mean, you know my famous line about, you know, if you're not passionate about what you're doing, please stop. You're annoying the rest of us. It's critical to be passionate about what you're doing, and I'm very passionate about this. You know, you say, oh, you're doing a lot. You know, tell us about what you're doing for the city. You know, or you know, it's not me doing anything for the city. It's us doing things so that, you know, our kids will have a vibrant place to prosper, to play, and to tell their friends from around the country and around the world, this is where it's happening, this is where it's at, you need to come here. And that's the whole goal.
You know, I was down at NMT, New Mexico Tech, and interviewing the vice president of technology there, and he says, we do big things here. And I just noticed that launching big is going to be the new signature line for Albuquerque.
Sure.
So how did that come about?
You know, one of the things that people, I know I have a negative reaction every time someone says, you know, hey, you know, want to be on this board, you want to be on this, you know, committee, do you want to be on this? You know, and I, quite frankly, I don't like to be on things that are going to last years and years and years, and nothing ever comes of it. And so I started thinking back to my private sector days about, you know, task force and things like that, and kind of came up with this 90-day action team thing. And the reason 90 days is important is that I can do anything for 90 days. And if you're telling me you're going to get passionate people who are a little bit knowledgeable around a certain issue, and they're going to have a series of meetings, maybe, you know, 5, 6, 7 meetings over 90 days. Then they're going to have an output, and then by rule they disband. That's very attractive to me. Right. And so I thought, well, that's probably attractive to other people too. So we've been kind of putting these 90-day action teams together around certain things. I was really happy to see the mayor at the first 90-day action team for, you know, how do we want to communicate or come up with an Albuquerque manifesto or a, you know, a theme or something that people can rally around. And so I'm thrilled that came to fruition, and we'll continue to learn on these. You know, one of the things that entrepreneurs do is they're not satisfied with the status quo, and they're going to take some risks. Things are going to get a little messy before they get clean, but they're going to, you know, it's the way to move things forward. It's the way to make our lives and those around us, more importantly, better. And I could see that was the motivation of this team, and you know, I'm thrilled that with the result. And we're learning each time we do one of these 90-day action teams so that we can continuously improve the process, pivot away from the things that don't work, swarm towards the things that do. And my favorite thing in the world is things that happen quite by accident, that we start supporting and learning from and getting feedback from the community from, and really making great over time. Entrepreneur Office Hours is another great example of that. You know, it's like, hey,
over at Verge,
get out at every Wednesday, 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. over at the Verge building, 317 Commercial. You know, we'd say what it came from is, yes, this is a great view, but it's hard to get up here to the 11th floor.
Mm-hmm.
You get your ticket validated, all those kind of things. What I thought was, well, like my old college professors, let's establish office hours. I'll go to a place that's much more easily accessible,
Right.
and we'll do 15-minute increments. And any company, any person who's got an idea, wants to get the company to the next level, come by and have a chat, and let's see if we can help out.
Mm-hmm.
And my assistant and I went down there the first time thinking we'd just go through some emails, crickets. But 30 people showed up.
They were lined up.
They were lined up, and so the next week we got other entrepreneurs, and one of the partners from Clifton Larson Anderson comes, Mike Prinzo, and Perry Bendixson comes from a legal perspective, and we got people from marketing and finance, and other people come to be resources and mentors for this community. And this is great for our community, and that's something that happened kind of like by accident, just a thought, but it's turned into a really essential part of building our startup communities.
Right. Well, and I've gone down there and mentored multiple times now, and it's really satisfying because I'm on my 32nd through 37th business now, and but it's nice sharing with people that are motivated to do something, and they just might need that little extra little bit, And when the community comes together and shows up at a specified time, it's easy enough to show up there, and you just sit down, and pretty soon you're being introduced to somebody that's got the idea and just needs a little bit of a push to get it over the hump.
And that's the key. At the end of these 4 years, I want a community that has a culture of being connected, and collaborating and communicating. We know that proximity equals progress. We know that collisions equals companies. We know that when you get good people together, good things happen. And that's the kind of thing that the office hours happens. When you go in there and you see a buzz of 30 people milling around and talking to each other, of course good things are going to happen.
Exactly.
One of the things that we have an issue here with is capital. Now, it's a little bit of a myth in that there's no community that thinks they've got all the capital they need. However, we have had a dearth of capital here, especially with what's happened with some of the VCs over the last decade. But what we really need is prepared, disciplined entrepreneurs with a pro forma in their hand, who can sell the call and have tested the market and know the market is there. And by the way, that's what ABQID is doing, and that's what a lot of our entrepreneur boot camps and some of our entrepreneurial education is doing. Some of our events during things like Global Entrepreneurship Week, November 15th through 23rd, is all meant to be exposing people.
It's coming up.
It's coming up.
Right.
There's 4 rules to a startup community. It comes from a book called by Brad Feld called Startup Communities. It has, number one, it has to be run by entrepreneurs, because entrepreneurs attract other entrepreneurs. Part of that is helping people self-identify as entrepreneurs.
Right.
People, I love it when someone sits down and says, I've got this idea, but I'm not really an entrepreneur. You just qualified yourself as an entrepreneur, right? I mean, that's people who are not happy with the status quo and are willing to take a risk to do things. That is an entrepreneur. Number 2, it's a give before you get long-term attitude. Right? Exactly. So I am willing to put in before I'm expecting anything out of the system. And the more we all do that and get away from guarding our own scarcity mentality into, the more we share, the more we all win.
Prosperity.
The better, that's right. And long term says, hey, I wish I'd have planted a tree here 20 years ago. I didn't. Okay, well, how about 10 years ago? Well, I didn't. 5. Okay, well, let's plant it today. And quite frankly, you say you see me all over the place. We're planting a lot of little trees.
Exactly.
Right? I knew that needed to be happening in our first year here. Third is you include everyone. And that's a big deal because it's messy.
Yep.
But you know what? Mayor and I don't want this to be about us. We don't want this to be about the mayor's office. We want this to be community-led, community-driven. Now, we can be catalysts, we can be thought leaders, we can be assimilators, we can make one-time tiny investments, but we don't have all the money in the world. It needs to be things that are owned and useful to the community and owned by the community. And so all of these things that we're doing, if you notice, don't have my name or the mayor's name on it. It has the community's name on it. And that's the key, and that's what will be the legacy that will last way beyond our 4 years in the second term. So that's the key. So including everyone is a big deal. And then the last one is create a schedule of events that constantly builds your entrepreneurial stack. Said another way, a schedule of events that engages deeply your entrepreneurs and your innovators and those that love them. Okay?
Exactly.
And so in August we had the Inflection Week. In September we had Tech Fiesta Week. In October we moved Deal Stream right to the middle of Balloon Fiesta.
Right.
And now that's culminating in November, where working with Kaufman and the mayor's relationship with Kaufman and being entrepreneurial, we are literally been named as one of only 6 cities in the country as a highlight city for Global Entrepreneurship Week. And we have over 20 amazing events during that week. They're going to be really cool. And that week, and if you go to www.gewabq for Global Entrepreneurship Week Albuquerque, gewabq.com, you can see the schedule of events and plug in. You know, you'll start rubbing elbows with people who have ideas similar to yours. You'll see that, oh, somebody else started with an idea just like I have, or somebody else is thinking how to be entrepreneurial even within their position. I'm being entrepreneurial within government.
Exactly.
Right? Kathy Winograd and Debbie Johnson are great examples of being entrepreneurial within academia. Carol Parker, Chalky Abdallah, the provost, who are starting Innovation Academy over at UNM. That's being entrepreneurial within even a large organization.
Right. P&M, Intel, they've all participated in the downtown effort there, and you can go see the stack of shipping containers that have been converted into
on the First Plaza Galleria, Stimulus Center,
and the Code Warriors.
Yes,
you know, being able to go through a fast track kind of arrangement and learn Java and everything else under the sun in what, 9 weeks?
Yes. So here's what the beauty of a coder school is. First of all, we need more coders.
Right.
We could graduate hundreds of coders a year and not saturate this market. We have companies that are dying for local coders who are now going outside of the state or even outside of the country. Let's graduate people into jobs that are needed here.
Right.
And these coders come out and they get jobs in the 30s, 40s, up to 60s, 70s range, and not in 4-year degree, not a 2-year degree, but a 9-week certificate.
As soon as they understand it.
That's right. So this is just the precursors to app development programming that they need to get out into the world and start producing, and that's the kind of thing we need. And we showed Debbie Johnson at C&M a coder school. We went and all visited, Mayor and I and Debbie Johnson, in the spring, and in August they had their first cohort of the coder school downtown, and because we'd asked them to come downtown, they're right in the middle of it. And that whole downtown is the innovation district called Innovation Central that we're trying to build is just exactly for that purpose, and the just the proximity is already paying off. Example, during Global Entrepreneurship Week, one of the first events on that Saturday the 15th is a hackathon. This is a cooperation between the C&M Stimulus Center and Lavu, one of our up and rising companies here in town. They moved downtown into the Innovation District, as did C&M. And because of that, they started talking, and now they're doing a joint project together, which is going to be fantastic for both and a win-win. That would have never happened if we weren't practicing the proximity equals progress principles of getting everyone together.
Okay. One of the biggest things that's happening here in Albuquerque is the entire corridor that is being called the Innovation District?
Innovation Central, which is our version of an Innovation District.
Okay.
Bruce Katz wrote a book called The Metropolitan Revolution, in which case he said it's going to be up to the cities and communities to chart their own destiny, because the feds are frozen and you can't trust the states to really manage a community's culture. So and a subset of that in Chapter 6 is called Innovation Districts. Innovation Districts have been proven to work extremely well to help people turn around their economies by congregating. And what he's done is he's shown by study that you need to concentrate within a 1 mile, 1.2 mile radius. Every 0.1 mile after that, it drops off logarithmically in the effectiveness. So what our innovation district is called Innovation Central. At the core of it is Innovate Albuquerque, which is a collaboration between the city, UNM, Terry Loddick of the private sector, New Mexico Educators Credit Union, put in money. We got an EDA grant from the feds on this, and we purchased the First Baptist site. It's a 7.2 acre site, which will be a place. This is intentional placemaking, making a scene with place and bold leaders and actors and innovators and entrepreneurs and very active, and it will be filled with all the resources needed for entrepreneurs and innovators to thrive. And so that's the whole. And so in that district, then you do things like bus rapid transit, right, to move people around. You put fiber and connectivity, high-speed connectivity in through there. We're going to put an entertainment district with 21st century amenities just across the railroad tracks from it to make sure that people have what they need, so that this is a place where people want to come and congregate and share a cup of coffee and share ideas and those kinds of things. So it all works together to make a livable, walkable area downtown. What's great about it is it has the nice side benefit in our town in that we can congregate and repurpose our downtown, which had been, kind of left alone for a couple of decades. It needed a friend.
Right.
And so this is the friend it needs.
Right.
And, we had tried other things to revitalize downtown. This is it.
And that's going to be the core, and that'll start a whole series of gentrification and bringing downtown back alive.
It'll bring downtown back alive, and if you think about it, it's the perfect place. It's the center of New Mexico.
Sure.
It's literally at the intersection between the rail runner, north and south, and good old Route 66, east and west.
Exactly.
So it'll be the center of New Mexico.
And that First Baptist Church is going to be remodeled so that on the first floor it'll be educational level and then residences above?
So there will be some residences for Innovation Academy. There'll be apartments for thought leaders from around the world and other technical parks that are coming in, and other innovation districts that are coming in to share ideas. But we're going to have Perkins and Will is going to do a master plan. Okay. Now, we have an interim use agreement to use the old Noonday building for entrepreneurial activities in the meantime. So you'll see things before the end of this year, 2014, and into 2015, while we do the master plan. Once we do the master plan, those buildings may go away. Hopefully we'll save the sanctuary, which is a landmark at the corner. Right. But the rest of the buildings that were built in the 70s, et cetera, will probably go away toward a really good mixed-use campus that has a lot of offices and incubators, accelerators on the first floor, as you said, and then some live spaces and other spaces above.
And what's the deadline for that?
Well, that'll take a couple of years to come to full fruition, which is why we did the interim use agreement, so that we could start getting entrepreneurs together on the site now.
Perfect. Well, I know you've got your next meeting lined up, and so thank you for sharing this, and I think people of Albuquerque will really be interested in what you're really doing and how easy it's coming together with your hard work.
Well, I appreciate being with you, Robert. I think this is a great thing that you're doing. Highlighting the good news of Albuquerque is so important to change the language and start that flywheel of positive activity that we know we need to change the direction of our economy. Good,
All right.
great.
Great stuff.
Thank
Have
you,
a great
sir.
weekend.
All right.